Hello, welcome to this tropical update. So let's see what's happening. We have these two areas to monitor, the Central Atlantic and the Gulf. So the Gulf is already at 60% and it's now updated to 70%. So they just updated it right now. There's this other area still at like 40% because they upgraded to 40% as well because this page is not updated. So there's the first area at 70%, and they'll update this description soon, but the chances are growing a lot there for a storm. A model or two even shows a hurricane, but mainly a tropical storm there, and the chances are growing there too, around 40% for the system, the Central Atlantic. So let's see what the current models say here. So this is the system, the Gulf. There's a lot of heavy rain in Mexico, a high concern for flooding, and most models take this into like a tropical storm by 96 hours or something, some even sooner, like 36, 72 hours. So let's see what we have on the model. So this is Invest 91L, we have it there. So this is the GFS. It has it there, merging with the other area, turning into a tropical storm, going into eastern Mexico, and then going north into Louisiana. So the GFS is actually like a high-end tropical storm going to Louisiana, almost a hurricane. So this is becoming a possible scenario as well. Let's see. The 0Z European. The Europeans is not excited yet, but it does show those systems there, and then it just takes the moisture towards the southern US later, but it doesn't do much. It just turns into a non-tropical area of low pressure out there in the Atlantic later, but it's not really developing this. So maybe into a short-lived depression, but the Europeans not really developing this. The Canadian has it there, merges with the other area, and turns into a tropical storm into Texas and Louisiana as well. So both the GFS and the Canadian are showing it. The icon is showing, because the icon's very aggressive this season, but it's showing like a tropical storm going to Louisiana too. So three models are already indicating it. Let's see if any other model shows something. This is the Neptune. The Neptune is also showing like a tropical storm going towards Louisiana, even a low-end hurricane possibly. So all the models except the European are showing this developing. So there's a high probability that something goes towards Texas, Louisiana, or northeastern Mexico. So if I was in like Texas or Louisiana, I would be closely monitoring this. So monitor this there, and let's see some hurricane models now, what they think about this. So it's now in Mexico with all the heavy rains, and then goes there into the Gulf. Takes a time to develop, but the HRF eventually gets it into like eastern Mexico or something. But the HRF isn't really like, let's see, there's only the 12Z one here. It's not showing like the other ones because this one isn't full. But let's see another hurricane model that might have the run full. So this is the HEFS A. It goes there, turns probably into a tropical storm, goes into northeastern Mexico and Texas, and kind of dissipates there. Then the rest of it goes into Louisiana. But these scenarios are kind of weird. It turns like into a tropical storm very quick there and goes right into Mexico. These are kind of weird scenarios, but let's see here. There's this other hurricane model. It shows it goes there, takes some time, but eventually might get into a tropical storm. But these hurricane models aren't very excited today, only the other models, but it's like showing potential tropical storm there or depression, but these hurricane models aren't very excited. There's the HEFS B. 2 it goes there, probably into a tropical storm there into eastern Mexico, and then it goes into Mexico and Texas, meanders near the coast with a lot of heavy rain, potentially turns into a storm again before reaching Louisiana by September 12th. So we'll closely monitor this, but for now, just be aware of the very heavy rains that this might cause. So just in the next 2 days, it shows like in Mexico, close to 15 inches in southern Mexico. This could cause some very dangerous flooding, around 12 inches or something. I will show you millimeters in a second. And then there's in southern Louisiana still about some 4 inches in some areas, in other parts of Mexico. And then there's some other moisture that coming from northeastern Caribbean. Let's see the European. It shows the rest of this in Mexico, around some 8 inches there. And let's put this later so we can see what happened to this system afterwards. So let's put this run to 0Z and here, and put this to like 141 hours. So because the European doesn't have it developing, but it has this moisture going into the southern US later by like August 12th, no, September 12th or something. So please monitor, even if this doesn't develop, there'll be some the dangerous rainfall there around the 10th, the 11th and the 12th. So let's see what else might happen. So there's the other system in the Central Atlantic to monitor. So let's see, this is the European. Let's put 0Z. So there's it there in the Central Atlantic. So the European kind of has something trying to form, maybe a depression or something weak. Then it goes there, but not really turns into anything. It might be a depression for a short time there, but not really turns into anything. The GFS has it there. And then let's see. Wait. It keeps going. The GFS actually turns the system behind it into a tropical storm faster. It turns that one into a tropical storm, maybe in the Caribbean as a tropical depression by September 15th. Maybe a little bit before, like a tropical depression before reaching the Caribbean. And it turns this into a like powerful hurricane in the middle of the Atlantic. But that's the GFS doing crazy stuff. But we gotta monitor this first system potentially affecting the Caribbean by the 15th. And there's the Canadian. Let's see. It has the system there, and then it might turn into a depression or something, but the system behind it looks stronger. Then the Canadian dies, this system, and really develops the other one behind it a little bit for a short time. And then the icon has those systems there, already a low pressure there, might become a depression for a short time, and then the icon even has it going into the Caribbean, maybe as a tropical storm or a weak depression. So we gotta monitor it very closely. But even if it doesn't form, there'll be some more heavy rain in the northeastern Caribbean by like the 15th. So gotta monitor for that as well. Let's see here what these models have in terms of rainfall. So on the next 5 days, the European has more than 100, 200 millimeters in southern Mexico, and all the rain that already happened, plus all this rain that might still happen, might cause a lot of flooding, especially in eastern Mexico, as close to 400 millimeters. So please be careful with flooding in those areas there of Mexico. Even western Mexico, more than 100 millimeters along the Pacific. So please stay safe there. Let me say this in Spanish for them. Entonces va a haber mucha lluvia fuerte sur de México y ya está ocurriendo propuesta ola tropical con estas lluvias muy fuertes. Entonces, precauciones próximos 5 días, casi 200 milímetros sur de México, mucha lluvia fuerte. Precaución y el este de México también, y cerca de Texas y estas zonas. Muchas precauciones. Good. So let's see here. The GFS, it has like 200, more than 200 millimeters too in the next 5 days. Southern Mexico, around eastern Mexico, 200 millimeters in those areas. And let's see. In western Mexico shows a lot, more than 100 millimeters there as well. And some heavy rain Guatemala too, maybe El Salvador, Honduras these next few days. Some more storms in Belize. So please be careful there in Mexico, because on the Pacific side we have another potential area that might develop just west of Mexico. The probability is still low, 30%, but it might try to develop there. So let's see. And now we can see it has updated here for the Atlantic. There's a new area behind it for that system I showed you, both on the Canadian and the GFS that developed the system behind this first system, and about 20%. There's the second system, 40%. And there's this system, 70%, 50 and 70. So like I showed you, might interact with the frontal boundary and become something for the Gulf there. So please monitor this very closely in those areas. So let's see, Central Pacific still quiet, and please stay safe there. And let's see, especially because of the heavy rains, it might be the gusty winds there, because the GFS shows like already some gusty winds around there near the Mexico coast, but later shows more gusty winds near the coast of Mexico, especially like Monday and Tuesday. As this develops, like might have some very gusty winds there, and as it goes approaching eastern Mexico there, so be careful. And the European has some very gusty winds around Texas, the Gulf as well, so be aware. Might be higher surfing, maybe some rip current dangers there. And the ensembles from the European shows more support for the system there in the Central Atlantic, but going generally just north of the Caribbean, not affecting the islands. And it has a lot of support for the system in the Gulf, but not as much. So not a lot, but it has some support there too. And the GFS has more support in the Gulf there for a storm, maybe a hurricane, but mainly a storm, and a lot of support for the Atlantic as well, for the first system there, and the second system later possibly, and on the Pacific there too. So let's see, there's still some high tropical storm probabilities from the European, still 100% if you can believe it, but later the probabilities actually start going down. This is so weird, because the storm hasn't even formed yet and the probabilities are now 100% that it hasn't formed, and later when it might form it goes down, but weird. Let's see the tropical depression probabilities. Alright, it shows a 70% there in the Atlantic, and it keeps going there. Let's see, still like by the 12th, 60 to 70% chance there, and even some more probabilities to watch later. And now it's 100% in the Gulf, and later it goes down, goes towards Texas. But the European model, the operational, wasn't developing this, so maybe this is why it's kind of weird, but this is mainly it. So stay safe there. So stay safe and be careful with the heavy rains and everything.